Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will present an overview of the Gemara with the Tosfos in Masechta Shabbos on the Chesam and Aleph. Let's begin by looking at a general outline of this class. So in the Gemara, we presented two cases where there are arguments. One regarding when one throws Rishus, and the other regarding Lavid. And in this Gemara, there are four Tosfos. So let's begin by presenting an overview of the Gemara. And now we're going to present it the way Rashi understands it. And later, when we go through the Tosfos, we'll see the way Tosfos understands it. So the Gemara began with a teaching from Abaye that said that if somebody threw a basket from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, the din is if the basket is 10 tefachim high but less than 6 tefachim wide, it doesn't qualify as a Rishus, and therefore the person is chayiv because he threw an object from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, which is always chayiv. However, if the basket is 10 tefachim high, 10 and 6 tefachim wide, then it does qualify as a Rosh Hashanah, and the person is pater because he threw a Rishus from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, and a person is not chayiv for throwing a Rishus from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah. Rava, however, argued with this and said that even in the case where the person threw an object, he's also going to be pater. And the reason is because although he threw an object, nevertheless, since this is a basket that's made out of reeds and it's 10 tefachim high, it's impossible that some slivers of reed at the top, that they should not extend above 10 tefachim. So it comes out that although the person threw an object from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, the whole object did not come to rest in the Rosh Hashanah, rather some slivers of reed extended above 10 tefachim into the Makom Ptur, and therefore the person's pater. The Gemara then presented a teaching from Abaye and Rava regarding a person who throws a basket from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah and he threw it upside down. And the Gemara over there said that if the basket is Shiva Umashu, a little more than 7 tefachim high, and like we said for clarity, we'll say 7.1 tefachim high. So if it's 7.1 tefachim high, the person is chayiv. And the reason is because even though within 3 tefachim, in other words, right when it comes lower than 3 tefachim, and for clarity we'll say 2.9 tefachim, when it's within 3 tefachim from the ground, 2.9 tefachim from the ground, we say lavid, and we view it as if the wall's extended downwards. Nevertheless, the whole object came to rest in the Rosh Hashanah, and the reason is because if the basket is 7.1 and we say lavid by 2.9, that totals 10 tefachim, and like Rashi says, we're referring to a basket that's less than 6 tefachim wide, so it only qualifies as an object, and the whole thing came to rest in the Rosh Hashanah. However, if it's Shiva umechza, and like Rashi said, Shiva in 2 mashus, so we'll say 7.2 for clarity. If it's 7.2 tefachim high, then the person is pater. And the reason is because since we say lavid when it's 2.9 tefachim from the ground, so 7.2 plus 2.9 totals 10.1. So there's a little bit of the basket that's above the Rosh Hashanah that's in the Makom Ptur. Therefore, the person is pater. Then we presented the opinion of Rav Ashi, who argues and says that even in the case where it's more than 7.1 tefachim high, where it's 7.2 tefachim high, the person is still going to be chayiv. And the reason is because we do not say lavid by the walls of a basket, since the walls of the basket are meant to contain what's inside the basket. So that's an overview of the Gemara based on how Rashi understands it. Now we'll move on to present the 4 Tosfos and emphasize how the purpose and goal of Tosfos is to explain the Gemara and support the Gemara. So the first Tosfos is on the case where we said that if the basket is 6 tefachim wide, then the person is pater. The basket, which is 10 tefachim high and 6 tefachim wide, the person threw it from the Rosh Hashanah to the Rosh Hashanah, he's pater. There's 2 Tosfos on this, so we'll begin with the first one. And Tosfos over here, there's 2 parts. Number 1, Tosfos presents a machlekes whether 5 3/5 includes the walls or not. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, it needs to be 10 tefachim high and 4 tefachim by 4 tefachim wide. When we translate that to a circle, it's 5 3/5. So Tosfos presents machlekes whether 5 3/5 includes the walls or not. When we make this requirement for Rosh Hashanah to be 4 by 4, and by a round object like our basket, 5 3/5, is that referring just to the ear, or does that also include the walls? And therefore, if 6 is an exact measurement or a chumrah, if we say 5 3/5 only counts the ear, so then when we say that the basket needs to be 6 tefachim, that's exact, that's precise, because we need 5 3/5 for the ear, and then a fifth for one side of the wall of the basket, a fifth for the other side of the wall of the basket, for a total of 6 tefachim. So only by 6 tefachim wide is it a Rosh Hashanah. Or do we say that 5 3/5 includes the walls? So when the Gemara says 6 tefachim, it's not the exact measurement, rather it's a chumrah, telling us that only when it's 6 tefachim do we view it as a Rosh Hashanah. But 5 3/5, although it's really a Rosh Hashanah, we'll treat it as an object, and we'll say that the person did an Isser midrabanan. So that's the first part of Tosfos, and it's related to understanding the Gemara, that when we say 6 tefachim, is that the exact measurement or is that a chumrah? And the second part of Taisus is Taisus explains and proves that the height does include the base of the basket. Regarding 6 tefachim, Taisus presented a machlokes. However, regarding the height, he says that everybody is in agreement that regarding the height of the basket, when we say it's 10 tefachim, it does not refer to the ear, it refers to the ear and the base, also the wall of the basket. The next Taisus is on this piece as well, when it says if it's 6 tefachim wide, the person is patur. And once again, there's 2 parts to Taisus. Number 1, Taisus explains that he's patur because he threw from a Rosh Hashanah to a Rosh Hashanah by way of a Rosh Hashanah. Rashi explains the reason the person's patur is because he threw a Rosh Hashanah, and a person is not chayiv for throwing a Rosh Hashanah, he's only chayiv for throwing an object. Taisus, however, explains that the reason the person's patur is because when the basket comes to rest in the Rosh Hashanah, it becomes a Rosh Hashanah, so it comes out that the person threw from a Rosh Hashanah to a Rosh Hashanah, threw it over a Rosh Hashanah. And then the second part of the Taisus, which seems to change a little bit the first point, is that based on a question from a Gemara elsewhere, it's a long question that Taisus presented, Taisus concludes that he's patur because the hanacha isn't a hanacha. Taisus explains that the reason the person isn't patur, isn't chayev, is because when it came to rest, that's not a good hanacha, since the hanacha comes at the same time of creating the Rosh Hashanah, and that's not a valid hanacha. So it seems like there's 2 ways of why he's patur. Number 1, because the hanacha of the basket, when it was in the state of an object, is not a good hanacha, and also he threw from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Hashanah over Rosh Hashanah. So that's the second Taisus, and once again we see that Taisus is explaining the understanding of the Gemara. And it also, one more point in that Taisus is that it gives us, based on the comparison of the 2 Gemaras, Taisus asks a Gemara question from a Gemara elsewhere, it gives us an understanding of the Gemara over there, based on our Gemara, because what Abaye says here contradicts what Abaye says somewhere else. Taisus therefore concludes a different understanding of Abaye there, so our Gemara gives us a way of looking differently at the other Gemara. Next Taisus is on what Rava said. Rava said that even when it's less than 6 tefachim wide and it doesn't qualify as a rishus, the person is still going to be patur, although it's an object, because it's inevitable that some slivers of reed won't extend above 10 tefachim and will be in a makom ptur. So Taisus over here explains why Abaye doesn't agree with this. Why doesn't Abaye agree? Part of the basket is above 10 tefachim. So once again, the purpose of Taisus is that we should have an understanding of the Gemara. We have here the opinion of Rava. What's the reason Abaye doesn't agree with it? And the last and final Taisus is on the next teaching, where we said that if one threw the basket upside down, so the din is if it's shiva or mashu, if it's 7.1, he is chayiv, and it's shiva or mechza pater, if it's 7.2, he's going to be pater. So there's a few points here in Taisus. Number 1, Taisus explains that this is referring to a basket that's 6 tefachim wide. Rashi explained that it's a basket that's not 6 tefachim wide. It's less than 6 tefachim wide, and therefore it's only looked at as an object. Taisus, however, says that we're referring to a basket that is 6 tefachim wide, and the reason to say chayiv or pater is whether it's a reshus or an object. So it comes out, according to Taisus, the first teaching from Abaye and the second one from Abaye and Rava are around the same exact point, which is whether we view this as a reshus or as an object. So, and that's the second part of Taisus, which is Taisus explains both cases. He goes through each case and explains when it's 7.1 tefachim, we're not going to say lavud, because we only say lavud when there's going to be a total of 10 tefachim of walls, and 7.1 we have to take off a little bit for the base, let's say 0.1, so we're left with 7, and lavud is by 2.9, so we total 9.9. We won't say lavud over there because we only say lavud, and that's the last point in Taisus we'll bring up in a minute. We only say lavud when there's 10 tefachim of walls. So over there, it comes out we don't say lavud. So when the object only comes, therefore the object only comes to rest when it actually lands. So then it's not a Rosh Hashanah because it's only 7.1 tefachim high. However, when it's 7.2, so when we deduct, let's say 0.1 for the bottom, for the base of the basket, so we have 7.1 plus 2.9, so we do have 10 tefachim of walls, so now we extend the walls downwards, and we have a Rosh Hashanah here, because it's 6 tefachim wide and 10 tefachim high. And that's the last point in Taisus, where he says, Taisus explains that we only say lavud to extend the walls if it creates a Rosh Hashanah. So that explains 2 things. Number 1, since we only say lavud when it creates a Rosh Hashanah, so that, number 1, we need to have a total of 10 tefachim of walls without the base in order to say lavud. Taisus doesn't explain much to that, but he connects those 2 points. And number 2, since we only say lavud when it creates a Rosh Hashanah, therefore he disagrees with Rashi, because according to Rashi, we're talking about a basket that's not 6 tefachim wide. It's less than 6 tefachim wide. That means it's an object. Taisa says that by an object, we will never say loved. We're only saying loved to extend the walls downwards. If by extending the walls downwards and making them longer, it's going to create a rishus. And with that, we have an overview of the Gemara. We presented first the chart understood according to Rashi, and then we presented the 4 Taisvos, emphasizing how the purpose of Taisvos is to explain and support the Gemara.